The effervescent Sam Moran's musical career began when he was 20 years old while studying at the New South Wales Conservatorium of Music and appearing on a couple of plays written by the brother of the Blue Wiggle, Anthony Field. He was studying to become a music teacher when his life was changed forever by joining the Wiggles family. And he began traveling all across the country and globe, making children of all ages laugh, sing, and dance along with him. After 10 years as a part of the ensemble, Sam elevated to the yellow skivvy when Greg Page became unwell. After 6 years and thousands of performances, the original Yellow Wiggle returned to the big red car seat, and Sam was suddenly without a job. He bounced back, combining his musical education background and comedic timing to develop Play Along with Sam for Nickelodeon, which has gone on to receive a slew of awards and a legion of fans, both young and old. Welcoming his daughter just a few weeks ago, Sam is now a father of 2 girls. He has been an ambassador for Guy and My charity, the Sebastian Foundation, for many years, and is always the first to generously put up his hand to help us out. I look forward to sharing a cup of tea with Sam to dig a little deeper and see if life is always smiles, songs, and dance routines. Sam Moran.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I feel like this has been a long time coming.
It has. Many years coming.
I've known you since I don't even know how long. Seems forever.
It's over 10 years.
Is it?
I think so. Since 22.
Okay, well, now we're old.
Absolutely.
And decrepit.
Cheers to
Time for tea.
Cheers to old and decrepit.
Old people drink tea, right? We're having English breakfast with a dash of milk.
Classic.
Love a tea, Sam?
I do love tea. All sorts of tea. I love coffee. All sorts of beverages, really.
Yes, all of them.
All the beverages.
You told me a story earlier about how when you were part of the Wiggles crew and people would see you out and about having a beer.
Yes.
That was frowned upon.
It made the local papers in some places when we were around.
Because Wiggles drinking beer just doesn't... I mean,
apparently
you
it doesn't compute to some people. But obviously, you're travelling on the road. You're, got a few hours to kill at night. Go out to dinner and you might have a drink.
Yeah.
Because we're not children ourselves.
That's right.
We are still adults ourselves. Yes. We do adult things.
Yeah, you're not cracking a beer open on the stage while entertaining the children.
No.
Or showing your tattoos.
No, long sleeves.
Yes.
Long sleeves generally as part of the costume.
Thank you. I would like to hold out on my children getting tattoos for as long as humanly possible.
Yes.
Their father is not a great
Although most
example.
of their parents probably have them, so.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
Exactly.
Maybe that's your next show. Tattoos for Sam.
That's right. Then children just start drawing on their arm in Sharpies.
Now, you've been a children's entertainer for, is it going on
22 years now.
22 years.
Yes. 22 years of singing, dancing, and the old knees getting a little bit creaky. Yeah, no, it's 22 years of children's entertainment, which has been wonderful, rewarding, and it's I'm starting to have, adults that know me from, right at the very start. So that's weird. It makes me feel old, very old. Mm-hmm. It's still rewarding at the same time.
I bet.
Yeah. Whenever I get stopped on the street or people want to tell you about the impact you've made on their lives or anything, what's lovely is it's always positive. It's always a happy memory of them with their own kids. So, I mean, you can't be upset about that.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Do you find, Play Along with Sam, you have your uniform on
I do.
The screen.
My adventure suit.
Your adventure suit. Do you find that kids, do they recognise you outside of the suit?
Yeah, see, depends on the age. The younger children don't, because it's out of context.
Yeah.
From an early childhood background, from that point of view, what they see on the TV lives and exists in the TV.
Right.
If you see you in the real world, that doesn't compute.
Yeah.
One child said something to Murray, actually, in the wheels, and he said, when he met him in person, he said, "What did it hurt?" He said, "What hurt? Did what hurt?" And he said, "Getting out of the TV." Whatever happens in the TV
cute.
actually exists in that. So young children don't necessarily compute. My favourite interactions have been at supermarkets when I'm there doing my own supermarket shopping. Mm-hmm. Yes, that happens.
Yes,
we do that too.
It's adulting.
Exactly,
yes.
Adulting. We do adult things, and then coming across a mother who's very busy trying to get what she needs done. while the child's sitting in the trolley,
Yeah.
and then sees me, and like their eyes wide open, and they're trying to figure it out, and they don't say anything, and then I just give them a little wave and a smile. And their faces just light up, and you know later on they've told their mum, I saw Sam at the supermarket, and they're like, what?
Is that when you went quiet for 5 seconds?
Yes,
Great.
exactly.
We love Sam. Now, what was it about children or music for kids that kind of lit your fire?
I'm not sure. I certainly didn't intend on becoming a children's entertainer.
Right, so that wasn't the goal or
It
the
wasn't,
dream.
no, not at all. When I was in kindergarten, I did pre-instrumental music classes, and I was very, very into music from a very young age. To when I think the teacher pulled my mother aside when I was 6 and said, or 5, and said he sings very well in tune for his age. Shouldn't be able to sing like that at his age.
Wow.
You should put him in a competition because that's what you do.
Absolutely.
So I think my mum put me in the youngest singing competition was 10 and under or something, and I was 5 and I won some.
Nailed it.
Still memory. Still proud. No, so early childhood music kind of was always a part of me, and so that learning and education of music was always part of my growing up. Then I went to Sydney Conservatorium of Music to study music education, but I was more performance and wanting to do musical theatre and doing my own music and doing that as well. That was kind of the aim at that point. To be fair, education was kind of the secondary. That was the mother going, make sure you've got something to fall back on.
Oh, yes. All those creative kids out
Exactly.
there. Yep.
Make sure you've got something to fall back on.
Yes.
Everybody quotes Steve Jobs. But there's one quote that he always had is when he looked back in his life, he said, you have to believe that the dots of your life will connect at some point.
Love that.
So,
Nothing's
when I
for
look,
waste. I always
Exactly.
think there's nothing is for waste.
Exactly.
Nothing you ever try or do, or
Exactly.
no job, no study.
and that's part of your journey, right? That
Yep.
only you've been on.
Yes.
And so you will always bring those things to anything further down the track, and nobody else has done all those things. So when I look back, there is those things of having done early childhood music myself as a child, then doing music education, then going and doing theatre and performing and doing acting things, all those things, and then working for the Wiggles for a while. Then I went and had a real job for a little while.
Did you?
Briefly.
What real job did you do?
I was in IT
Really?
for 3 years, yeah.
I did not know that.
In my early 20s.
Between the Wiggles and
Well, I first started working on the Wiggles when I was 19, 20, because this was about 8 years after they'd started, and they just hit in the US. And so they were spending so much time over there, and they needed something to tour around Australia with their music to keep so that they didn't go missing.
got it.
So they created a show then called the Dorothy the Dinosaur Show, which they hadn't done before. And they did a workshop where they got, they cast all these people. They brought in their early childhood teachers from the university that then helped mould us into what they were. That was in 98. So then we did the Dorothy the Dinosaur Show for about 4 years, touring around, and then I think 9/11 happened. As we're going through 2020,
Yeah.
entertainment goes through
Yeah.
its ups and downs. And so I went and got a real job for 3 years, which I enjoyed. I will say there's parts of that I enjoyed a lot,
Yep.
was the routine.
Yeah, that's steady income,
Steady,
very safe.
everything.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that for a while. The tie became a bit of a noose. And I needed that creative outlet again.
Yeah.
And then I think Greg started having some health concerns. And because I already had that background with them, they asked me to come fill in for a tour. And that fill-in became a fill-in. And then they realised that he was the only singer in the band.
Right.
And the others couldn't hold a note like it. That if ever he was sick, they needed somebody. So
Yeah,
I was the
totally.
understudy and toured with them for 5 years doing other backgrounds.
And you're a competition winner since the age of 5, so
Exactly right.
you're the man for the job.
Exactly right. I actually did, the first thing I did for them before that was they did an album with Steve Irwin. And
Yeah.
I went into the studio and recorded Steve's parts for him to copy.
Oh, wow. Oh, you're like the ghost singer.
Yes.
Put that down on your resume.
Yeah, well, I did all
Go
the
sing
backing
it to
vocals
Steve
for years on the
Irwin. Unreal.
recordings as well. So then when we did the Taiwanese Wiggles, Spanish Wiggles, I did all the backing vocals for all those as well.
Yeah. And did you ever think in those moments, when you were in the background
Yes.
that you would ever be in the foreground?
No, I remember having that conversation with somebody else. I'd been there for 5 years and I felt like I needed something new.
Yeah.
I remember telling somebody else, I was like, well, it's not like I'm going to become one of them.
Right.
You know, like there's only so much I can do here. I've done all the background stuff as well. I've done all the, recording with the other languages and done all that, led them and done the vocal producing for them. You know, by the time I took over as Yellow, I'd filled in 1,500 times.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, wow.
so I'd kind of done everything I could do within that. And then Greg really started getting sick and I was catching him backstage. And he was leaving stage during shows and just waving at me and telling me to take over.
Wow.
Yeah, things like that. Or we'd do a show in Sydney. It was a rare occasion we had an interval. And he'd be on the first half and I'd go on the second half because he couldn't get back on.
Yeah.
Things like that for a while. So
He
then
really tried to do it right. He
So
really
then-
gave it a good go.
Yeah, and then I took over for 6 years.
Yeah. I was with my boys, you were the Yellow Wiggle,
Yep.
and then Emma was the Yellow
Yes.
Wiggle. Yeah. That's kind of how it went for us.
Yep.
When you got the skivvy
Yes,
officially, what was that feeling? Because it's a little bittersweet, right? Because of course you don't want somebody who you know very well to be ill.
Of course.
You know, that was they birthed the
It was a
Wiggles.
bittersweet way to get
Bittersweet
something,
way
an
to
offer
get a
like
job.
that.
Yeah. Yep.
It was also, timing-wise, it was all very weird as well because I'd just gotten married a month earlier.
And you met Lynn, is your
Yes.
ex-wife now.
Yes.
She was a part of the Dorothy the dinosaur.
Yes, in the US. So she
the
was
US.
Dorothy in the US.
She was Dorothy.
Yeah, she was Dorothy.
Oh, you married Dorothy the
did.
dinosaur.
It didn't work out, but it did. It's all right. It happens.
We'll get there.
That's adulting.
Adulting.
That's adulting. But yeah, so that was a month earlier. So then I think we were planning on, we got married in October, and at the end of that year, we were planning on moving to New York and going and being struggling performers over there. In November, I got the call that, they wanted me to take over full time. And so then your whole world, you go, okay, we just got married. What does this now mean
Yes.
for our life going forward? So tricky, but we did weigh it up.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's something, an opportunity you can't let pass.
And for them too, that you'd already done so many shows, you knew it inside out.
Yes.
It would be an easy transition.
Well, a few years later, we were awarded honorary PhDs from Macquarie University, where the Wiggles originally studied, and their professor that taught them came up to me on that ceremony and said, I remember you back at the first workshop we did back in '98, and she said, I told them then he's the most like you guys.
Really?
And I was like, oh, that's really nice. Thank you.
That is nice. That's a nice thing to say and to notice as well.
Absolutely. I will say what's great about performing for children is it doesn't kind of matter what's happening in your life off stage. Once you get on stage and you see children, smiling and singing along, and you see, because you realize that's the only time they're going to see you.
Right.
They see you on TV 100 times, whatever, but this is the only time they're actually going to see you live, and they're going to remember that.
And it is a moment in time, because that's their age. That's their...
And they're going to remember that, so it's a responsibility.
Oh.
And so then you go, it doesn't matter what's going on off stage.
Yeah, you just bring it.
You bring it. And you feed off that energy as well.
Yeah.
Once you become a parent to that, sinks in 100 times more.
Game changer.
Absolutely.
You know how special it is to not only the children but the parents.
Well, also,
as well.
you know how hard it is then for a family to even get out the door on any given day.
Yes.
Let alone get the whole family together.
Yeah.
Come to a show.
Dress them in their wiggle favourite
do
colour.
all that.
Yep.
And they're doing that. For their family, and you want to give them your best.
That is what makes you great, and the Wiggles and what you're doing now, so great, because you feel that when you're in the crowd, you feel that you're like, you guys are really, really jumping, you're really singing,
and that's
you're really making that joke, and it's fun. And
I think that's the thing about good children's entertainment is that there has to be a level of sincerity to it.
Yes.
Because children see through it.
Yeah.
More than adults.
Yeah.
They will see through, insincere people in a second.
Oh, yeah. They are so much smarter than we give them credit for.
Absolutely.
They have these
And
sensitive
they're also the
feelers.
fiercest audience that if you're not entertaining them, they will literally turn around and just walk away.
Or tantrum.
So cold.
Or scream.
Just cold. Just cold.
Well, from all the parents, we thank you for entertaining our children so well. I can imagine in those 6 years, a lot of life would have been lived. You were married at the time.
Yes.
Did you have Eloise in
Yes.
those 6
So
years?
when I left the wheels, she was 2. So
Okay.
yes, so she was born during that time.
Yeah. So a lot of life is going on.
Yes, 7 months of the year I lived in hotels
Yes.
for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I was saying to you before, I know what it's like to be on the woman side of the
Yes.
fence in a partnership that one is traveling and
Yes.
one is staying at home. And
Yep.
and I think the woman probably gets most of the empathy or sympathy because it's like, oh, I don't know how you're doing this. You know, he's away. You're holding down fort. You're taking care of the small children, and I think we get a lot of that. You know, people gather around us and want to help us out and get around us.
Yes.
But I think for the men or the partner, not necessarily man, but in our case,
Yep.
the men going out into the world and doing their thing comes with emotions that probably we miss as
Yes,
women.
because you're also away from your loved ones. You're away from that child that you want to see. I mean, look, FaceTime is great and it's made a huge difference over the years, but
It's not the same.
it's not the same. There's no hugs involved in FaceTime. Not yet. Maybe they'll figure that. But then there's another level again when you're a children's entertainer because you're actually leaving your child to go and entertain other people's children.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to deny there's certainly times when you're on stage and you see the smiling children's faces out there, and that's wonderful, and you feed off that, and it feels great. But then you realise that your child, who's the same age as them, is at home without you. So it's a very tricky balance of feeling emotionally. And also even think between the partners as well is that I'm sure you've been in a situation where you're at home with the children and they're having some struggle, they're crying probably, and you're struggling to put them to sleep or whatever it is. And your partner's not there but really they just want to be that. They would love nothing more than to be there and fix that problem if they can, if they could. But they're at dinner and drinking with the rest of the people on the road, which sounds like they're partying it up, but it's probably because they just need to eat. And
Yeah. It's dinner
and
time.
the other option was Uber Eats at the hotel room or something.
Yeah.
And
Alone. Yeah.
without anybody around
Yeah.
them.
And a burger.
Exactly. That's not appealing either. Yeah, it's definitely a dynamic that is takes time to try and master.
And I think that's where resentment, if you don't catch it, resentment can definitely start to build.
Agreed.
You're off just having a good time. You know, sometimes guys on the road and he's like, I'm just playing golf because I've got a day off. And I'm like, lucky for some. No, you have a great time. I've done all school pickups and and then you can hold resentment. But I mean, obviously you can come at him and go, okay, that's your job.
Yeah.
That's fine. I can come down off my level.
Yes.
But sometimes you can't.
And I'm not here to say I have any great solutions, but it's just a communication thing that you have to work through.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I feel like you are somebody who's had a lot of new beginnings
Yes.
in your life.
I hadn't thought of it like that, but yeah, probably.
I
Yeah.
feel like we'll talk about, the coming to the end of the Wiggles and having to essentially start again
Yes.
in a different job, career, life, whatever
Yeah, because I
want to
wasn't really,
choose.
as far as I was concerned, I wasn't finished doing what I was doing. I really still was enjoying what I was doing. I still loved it and performing for children and writing music for children. So if anything, I was starting to embrace that in my own music education background a little bit more and realised I was within that framework. I was starting to find my own little place in that.
Yeah.
So I was starting to bring my own thing to it. So I felt like that was not done.
And so, because Greg came back in,
Yes.
he'd gone through what he needed to go through to get well.
Yes.
Came back in, And to a shock to you? You didn't see it coming? Did you
No.
kind of know what was happening?
No, I found out the day before it was announced.
Announced to the world.
Announced to the world,
Yeah.
yes. I got told it was being announced. Mm-hmm. Next day, your services are no longer required, essentially.
What does that do inside of your mind, heart, soul?
How do I sum that? It's a very hard thing to sum up into.
Every emotion under the sun.
Absolutely. And things that, and I think at the time, right at that very moment, I was so inside the bubble that it didn't really hit me. It's probably months later where I could see it from outside the bubble. I'd had some time to kind of observe it from outside the bubble.
Yeah.
And then I kind of saw what everybody else saw.
Okay.
Because there was a lot of outpouring of support and outpouring of sympathy for me, because obviously then I think 3 months later they announced that they were retiring, the original lineup. And so then that came back in. But I'd had enough time at that point to be outside the bubble to kind of observe what that all meant.
Got it.
So I think at that point is when I went through, like anybody does with any loss, I went through the phases of mourning it to then being angry to be, to blaming to whatever. I think it was 2015. It was my third solo album for Play Along with Sam, and won the ARIA award against the Wiggles. And I think I said something along the lines of, in the speech, which was all true, which I had kind of fantasized in my head about what I might say had I ever been fortunate enough to be in that position, and realised then, standing there, I didn't need to think them.
Right.
So that kind of getting me all teary, Jules.
Me all teary.
So it kind of made me, it kind of made me realise I didn't need to worry about any of that.
Wow. In that moment.
Yeah.
On the stage with the ARIA.
Yeah.
You were like, I don't need to mention that.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Wow, that is huge, Sam.
I'm sure there's all sorts of lingering things in there, all wrapped up in here and in these things that are coming out now. But for the most part, I kind of felt like, okay, you're done now with that.
That's a very releasing feeling. Yeah. Because I think that's the goal, right? Isn't that the goal, to when hard things come at you, to feel all of the stages that you have to feel? Because it is essentially grieving.
Yeah.
You've lost something that you didn't want to lose. That's what grief is. I don't want to lose that. I like it.
Yes.
But now I can't have it.
Yep.
That's grief. And then you have to go through all the things, but I don't think the final stage of grief, whatever that final stage is, acceptance.
Healing, I'm getting, yes.
I think acceptance is the last one.
Yep.
But that is hard. That's a hard stage to come to. But I don't think that grief ever comes to an end. But I think it comes to a point where exactly in that moment you were like, oh, I actually can't tap into that feeling anymore. I think I'm.
Or you kind of feel like it's lost its
power.
It's lost its power. Yeah. You kind of go, okay, file that away. Yeah.
Unreal. So you've gone through hard things. You've had new beginnings. You've come through the Wiggles thing to the other side and to Play Along with Sam. That's a new beginning into your own show. And with that comes, I'm sure, as you would have discovered, many responsibilities and stuff and hard work and all of the things. A new beginning in a new relationship, so coming out of your marriage and into a new relationship now, and a new baby.
A new baby, absolutely. And I've been only in the very early stages of that. I know,
at time of recording, 3-week-old new baby
3-week-old, a little bit premature, but all good and healthy.
And she is tiny and beautiful.
Tiny and beautiful.
And so
and
new
a dream
beginning.
So far.
So 10 years apart. You have a 10-year-old and now a 3-week-old.
I do.
That is like both girls. You've come through new management and that sort of thing. So there's lots of major changes. I don't know what kind of a man you are in terms of like, I mean, it's such a stigma thing to say about men that they hold their emotions in and they never talk about anything and they're quite closed off. How have you dealt with such big kind of stakes in the ground in your life and life changes?
Yeah.
Like mental health wise.
Mental health.
Are there things you do that?
The things I do, probably for the last 6 or 7 years, I was diagnosed with depression.
Yeah.
Which is something I deal with, but it's a funny little beast. It creeps up on you without you realizing it, and it, to the point where all of a sudden you go, "Oh, that's right.
That's what that is.
That's what that is." And
How did you discover that?
I discovered that when it was probably around the time of that ARIA win, maybe before, but around that time. Everything was going very well with Play on Sam. The US Nickelodeon had just started streaming it through their online thing. Everything was good. In every area of my life, everything seemed like it should be good. And I was on the couch in tears, not being able to move. For years before that, I'd always kind of said, I'd always been very even keeled and no real highs. So things weren't, when really great things happened, nothing was particularly, I didn't take it on too much. It was like, that's great. And whenever anything bad happened, it was like, oh, bugger. For years, I was like that. And I'd talk to friends who were psychology people and they'd said, oh, that's what everybody's trying to get to. And I was like, really? It doesn't feel like.
You just didn't have feelings.
Yeah. Well, it just didn't have the highs and the lows. It just kind of felt like, meh.
Yeah, you were the meh emoji.
Meh. That was the meh emoji. So there was nothing particularly wrong. That was for a long time. It was just like, meh, yeah, great. And then that one day when everything seemed to be right, I was the exact opposite. And that's when I went and sought some help about it. And then realised that those feelings I've been having for years were the early signs of depression.
Right.
When you don't feel appropriate levels of the highs and the lows.
It isn't
because I don't think people realise that exactly. They don't realise that that can be an early sign of depression.
Yeah, the meh feeling.
The meh.
Yeah.
It doesn't get in the day to day necessarily, get in the way, but it's certainly something to be aware of.
Because that leads to
it snowballs eventually.
To the crying on the couch over an
nothing.
excellent day.
Well, exactly.
Or nothing at all.
Over particularly, I have no idea why I'm feeling this way, but I can't stop it.
And so when you went to see somebody, did that help?
It did. So I did some therapy and I did some medication. Medication is something I still do off and on, as I'm pretty good at self-regulating myself now and realising when I need to. It's taken a while to get there and a few attempts of not recognising it. But for the most part, I'm pretty good at that now. And yeah, we're in an okay place. But it's always a day-to-day.
It's an ongoing.
It's an ongoing thing. It's just something that needs managing. It doesn't get in the way too much of anything, but as long as you're aware of it and you deal with it.
And are you big on talking about how you feel?
Sometimes. I have no problem talking about it. This is something I will say. There was, after my marriage breakdown, I had a lot of guy friends who would come to me and they'd say, I didn't feel like you wanted to talk about it. And I was like, I was totally fine to talk about it.
Nobody
but
asked.
It kind of made me feel awful that they felt like I was closed to that.
But that's the thing, like girls, I mean, they are like to the point of just like too many questions, too much information. Like we talk about the tiniest detail of all things.
Yes.
But I think with boys, like they're just sort of like awkward to ask a question. Like maybe your friends were like, how do I even, like, how's your marriage, mate? Like,
I don't know. It's funny, isn't it? The conversation around men's health has changed a lot in the last 10 years in a very positive way.
Yes.
That I think for the most part, men are very open about talking to each other about it. Just in that particular instance, they felt like and they were ready to talk to me about it.
Right.
They just felt like I didn't want to. And I was giving them a war, which I didn't know I was shown.
Got it. Yeah. It was the meh wall.
It was the meh wall.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's admirable that you did something about it. Like you could easily have stayed on that couch and kept on crying and not, moved forward. And I think that's the best way to deal with this.
And I think partially the reason I did was because that conversation had already changed. Had that happened to me 10 years earlier, I'm not sure I would have. I would have probably been on that couch for a lot longer anyway.
You just sort of thought, this is normal, this is who I am.
Or taken an even deeper turn, which I fortunately have never confronted that part of depression, thankfully.
Yes.
Without if you let that continue on, I can see how that just continues to spiral further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do to take care of your soul? What is your soul?
My soul is creating things. And it doesn't have to be music. It doesn't have to be. It's just creating something from scratch, turning something from nothing into something.
That's cool.
I've started businesses as well, that are not in entertainment. I have a restaurant bar that I run, that I own as well.
Invite me.
You are it's an open invitation. In Roselle, wine bar at night, cafe during the day. That's something that created that from nothing, and but it's the creation part that really fills me. So I'm one of these people that always has random ideas.
Great.
And that does fill me though, is exploring those ideas. Even if they don't do anything with them, it's the exploring them that feeds me.
And I think once you find that thing that fills you, it makes it easier when you are feeling depressed or sad or anxious.
Yeah.
If you turn your attention to those things that spark you up,
Yes.
that's the thing that can get you onto the next step.
I'm sure for the people around me, it's it's hell listening to my latest idea, but yeah, it does. It fills me. Just sparks that little bit of joy.
Yep.
Which is all we need, really, most of the time.
You're Marie Kondo.
Very much. Yes. Have you been Marie Kondo?
I love her on a deep level.
Really?
I just have a look at my pantry and you'll see. You'll answer your own question.
Okay.
You were recently in my pool singing a song with my husband.
I was. That sounds.
Has anyone ever said that?
That sounds like that was the adult side thing. No. That's purely work related. Because yes, as a part of the 22 years of children's entertainment, I'm doing a greatest hits album with Sony.
Fantastic.
So I've re-recorded some of the Wheel songs from my years there, the popular hits. I've got all the best, the greatest songs from Play Along with Sam over 6 albums, and then a couple of new songs, including one said pool party song,
which is
one guy, Sebastian.
It is a one great song. It is so good, that song. It gets in my head and that's it for the day. And every time I look at my pool.
That is my music. That's the thing, is that children's music is also, I kind of see children's music as like pop music, right? It just, it's not dumbed down adults music.
Yes.
But it has all the same criteria. It's got to be repetitive, catchy, but in regard to children, it's just got to be about a theme that's important to them. You've
nailed that. You should do something. You should do something in the industry. I agree.
And a pool party, it's like this. That song is just pure joy. It's meant to be just joy and represent everybody coming together and having a good time, and that's what it's. And that's why it should be fun, repetitive, and about a bit of splashing along the way.
And it really is. It's like kind of soulful. It's like I love that song so much, and you guys both do a great job.
Why, thank you very much.
And Sam Moran, you are like a total legend. There's like no other word for you.
Oh.
You're a total legend. You've had an incredible career thus far. I'm talking like you about you like this is it.
This is
the pool party.
This is your life.
You truly have, and you have been such a part of so many families and children's and parents' lives throughout the years, and you've weaved your way in, and it's just been a pleasure and a joy to not only know you, but to see you on this TV screen, and for my kids to adore you as well.
You're going to get me all teary again.
Truly, you're a good egg.
Thank you
really
very
are
much.
a good egg. And thank you for having tea with me. We drank the
Pleasure.
tea.
I need some more because
Have some more for your own.
Excellent.
Thanks for joining me. That was so great.
Thank you for having me. It's been long overdue.
Has.
Cheers.
Cheers to cold tea.